Welcome to this Welcome to this video where I'm going to be sharing your comments on a recent video that I posted. It's my second part opinion to the Sony A9, so I'll be reading your comments and sometimes excerpts from longer comments and responding to those. So I really hope that you get a lot out of this, and I really enjoyed going through all the comments and selecting the ones that I thought were most cogent and most useful for commentary. So thank you very much for your time and for your attention. Please check out the links in the description, and let's get right into it. I agree with that point on the lenses front, right? But I don't feel like that particular image, and if I can find it and put it here, I'll go ahead and do that, but I don't feel like that particular image was a poor representation of the A9. I felt like the grain was filmic and it had a pleasant aesthetic to it. I didn't feel like it got in the way. I didn't feel like it was troublesome, and what I was particularly impressed by was the fact that the IAF had actually locked on tack sharp to one of those eyes. So if I'm remembering the particular image correctly. So I was very impressed with not only that image, but with the high ISO performance that I saw out of those same sample images from the A9. And I really think Michael is off base with this one. I think Michael really doesn't know what he's talking about, because you can take a single image or a burst on most cameras nowadays. Like, you don't need to shoot a burst, but sometimes shooting a burst makes that one picture happen. Sometimes it captures the light just right. I feel like you need all those specs and features to build into your experience a camera that can give you a good enough product to be able to use a product in terms of an image, to be able to manipulate it the ways that you need to, and to be able to use that file for a myriad of applications, from online to, in print, as well as social media and the different demands of resolution and pixel sizes for different social media platforms. I think you need to give yourself as many opportunities for success as humanly possible, and I feel like high frame rate can help you with that. I also think that most of the time that you're using high frame rate, you're not just going to spray for 12 seconds and fill your buffer. I think most of the time you're using high frame rate, you're going to be using it for very particular circumstances, probably less than 3 seconds at a time. I think, like, what he's trying to say, I get what he's trying to say. He's trying to be a purist about photography, but what photography is now is not pure. Like, you have a style that you use different elements with, like film or a particular type of digital sensor, be it APS-C, APS-H, full frame, medium format, Super 16, Micro Four Thirds, whatever. Or you can, like I said, use film. You can choose fast lenses or slow lenses. You can shoot different types of events. You can use strobes. You can use continuous lighting. You can do a whole lot of things to change the experience of that photography for you, but that doesn't mean that your camera needs to perform any less than, or the film that you're using needs to perform any less than the best that it possibly can. And I feel like the A9 performs very well in all the circumstances that I've at least seen it used in so far. So I think that's a really important point. You need to have a tool, a photographer needs to have a tool that can do as much as possible in as many circumstances and situations as possible, in order to ensure that that photographer will be able to pull as many usable images from that particular shoot as possible. Kung Fu Fa Za Zaz says, hey, please don't hesitate to like, comment, or subscribe. I would really appreciate it. I don't know about Sony buying Nikon. I feel like that's complete, like, conjecture. I don't feel like that makes sense, especially with Nikon's recent legal action and dispute with Carl Zeiss and ASML. However, I think Semi Ibuka has a good point. Mirrorless has never been able to be on that same level as DSLR. The A9 is. That's really important for mirrorless as a format and as a system on the whole. I feel like the A9 does need to sell a lot. Right now, with camera sales declining, you need I mean, a first-party manufacturer needs to sell as many of everything as they possibly can, and it makes more sense for that manufacturer to target a higher-end audience because there's more profit on, you know, add-ons, on the cards, in terms of like these really fast Sony cards, in terms of lenses, in terms of just, you know, other accessories like that battery pack or an FTP box if Sony decides to make an FTP box. I feel like, you know, it's these professionals and these high-end users that are spending more money on more expensive kit that are the primary target audience and have been for much of the R&D dollars that get spent by first-party manufacturers. I think, you know, in terms of what's Canon going to do next, I feel like it would be very easy for Canon to come out with a 1DX Mark III that just takes the mechanical shutter out and has an electronic shutter that does it, and it's the same sensor and it's the same AF points, maybe more AF points, maybe a better sensor, maybe a similar sensor technology to Sony's. Whatever that looks like, it could be very easy for Canon, the both of them, to develop mirrorless technology that can compete with the A9 and can take back that market share if they lose any. And the big thing is I don't think that they will lose any, because Canon and Nikon both, but Canon in particular, is really good at making really solid, dependable, ergonomic, rugged cameras that people can use day in and day out and really enjoy the shooting experience with. You know, in so many arguments around like cameras and stuff, it feels like, or oh, you know, that I feel like I've seen in this thread anyway. Like, oh, you know, this is the mirrorless revolution. By 2020, everybody's going to be shooting mirrorless, and that's the only thing that there's going to be. And Canon and Nikon are going to die out, and Sony's going to reign supreme. And I just don't feel like that's true because of the possibility of these other manufacturers making mirrorless systems, but also of the fact that more Rebels, more like SL1s, SL2s are sold than, you know, 1DXs and D5s, because of the fact that there are more people that can afford a first entry-level DSLR, even though those pros are buying 4 or 5 bodies at a time, or they're using 4 or 5 bodies at a time, or their agency is buying 50 or 100 bodies at a time, because more people will go to an entry-level DSLR than will go to an Alpha 6000 series camera or something like that, because an Alpha 6000 series camera, potentially even an A7 camera or even this A9, assuming they're a very wealthy person looking to get into photography, can feel oftentimes like a point and shoot. That all electronic operation feels for many potential users much like a point and shoot, and what they're going for is a camera, and what they understand a camera to be is a DSLR. So for the unwashed masses, if you will, a camera is a DSLR. I feel like Canon and Nikon both will continue to sell lots of entry-level DSLRs, even if their higher-end models flip to mirrorless. And so I think that the DSLR is not dead. I feel like Canon and Nikon both have a long time before they really properly tank, assuming they ever do. I feel like mirrorless is gaining market share, but it's not doing so really at the expense of too many other manufacturers, because like I use my Canon glass with my Sony body. You know, like I'm still buying and considering buying Canon products, even though most of my attention, or Canon compatible products, even though most of my attention is towards Sony presently. So that's kind of all the thoughts that I have and all the comments that I decided were going to make the grade. So thank you very much for your time and for your attention. If you made it all the way through the video, I really appreciate it. Please don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.